So we now invite Dr. Ligia de Souza Cerqueira to do her presentation.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, it's a pleasure being here. My presentation, I'm going to do it with Stephanie Havir and Layla Sumer. So I'm going to share some slides for you. And Layla is starting here. Could you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Layla, please.
Yes. Can everybody hear me? Well, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here presenting at the 8th Annual Genocide and Humor Conference. We are honored to be here. My name is Layla Sumer, and I will be presenting a brief historical background about the facts that took place in Namibia and Rwanda, while my colleagues will be presenting genocide education in perpetrator and victim's country, and how basic education is the best tool for presenting genocide. I will start that Germany only recently has recognized its responsibility for the genocide of the Nama and Herero groups in Namibia. In the Berlin Conference, in which Germany gained official recognition of its rights to colonize Namibia, and then was called German Southwest Africa, it is known that Germany had a few obligations that the treaty imposed, such as the preservation of native tribes, the suppression of slavery and slave trade, and the protection of religious freedom. However, those obligations were not respected. The German Southwest Africa was a colony of Germany between 1884 and 1915, when it came to be controlled by South Africa until gaining independence in the 90s. The Herero were members of the Bantu people, and they had been in Namibia since the 15th century. They launched a revolt against the German settlers, who took away their land and livestock. In August of the same year, Germany ordered that all Herero, with or without weapons, with or without cattle, be shot to death. Therefore, 80,000 Herero were forced to flee through the Kalahari Desert, of which only 15,000 survived. And those who survived were sent to concentration camps, along with the Nama people, who also joined the revolt in 1905. So, unfortunately, between 1904 and 1908, an estimated of 65,000 Herero and 10,000 Nama were killed, generating the first genocide of the 20th century. Now, I would like to talk about Rwanda. As for Rwanda, the President Emmanuel Macron has recently recognized France's responsibility for the genocide of almost 1.2 million people. Ligia, if you could go to the next slide, please. Well, I will continue. The genocide was, thank you. The genocide was carried between the Tutsi and Hutu people and was instigated nevertheless by Belgium, which implemented the divide and rule policy, aiming to maintain a local political system which enabled Belgian government to rule and profit from the colony without having to engage directly among Rwanda's population. In 1959, the Tutsi rebelled against Belgium's colonizers, beginning a fight for independence. Many Hutu fled to neighboring countries as Tutsi secured its supremacy over Hutus, declaring Rwanda's independence in 62. However, in 63, a coup took place and a Hutu was declared president, initiating a persecution campaign against the former Tutsi monarchy, with the support, of course, of France and Belgium in the 70s and 80s. However, in the 80s, an economic crisis weakened their power in the country, which contributed to the growth of hate speech against Tutsi and to the exaltation of the Hutus with the action of Akazu, an extremist organization that gave rise power to Hutu, a group that was composed of members of the government and country's economic political elite, responsible for the genocide of the Tutsi in 1994. In 1990, a civil war broke out when the Tutsi launched an attack against government troops with an armed militia, organized among refugees installed in Uganda. This group became known as the Rwanda Patriotic Front, FPR, and aimed to take power to allow Tutsi refugees in Uganda to come back to Rwanda. This phase of struggle lasted until 1993, when the president, that was Hutu, agreed to sign a ceasefire with RPF, and establish some agreements between the parties, in addition to the ending conflict. The president agreed to return of Tutsi refugees to Rwanda, and the formation of a joint army between government and RPF groups was established, in addition to scheduling new elections. With the signing of ceasefires, the Hutus began to accuse the president of treason and fomented a hate speech, encouraged the Hutu population to arm themselves, and at which time militias were formed, which received weapons sent by France. On April 6 of 1994, the crash of the presidential plane was used as a pretext to resume the conflict and incite the Hutu population to carry out attacks against the Tutsi population. Having, of course, Belgium intensifying the segregation, favoring the Tutsi and taking advantage of years of long dispute among these two ethnic groups. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to give the floor to my colleague, Stephanie Havir. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, my dear friend Layla, for initiating our presentation. Before I begin, I would like to say it is a real honor to be here presenting for such a selected group of academics, and we are really, really happy to be here presenting for you. So linking the points, I will talk a little bit about the education on the perpetrators and victim countries. But before I start, I would like to link it to the historical context that my friend Layla just presented to us. Because why is it so important that we always begin with this historical context? Well, I would like to quote Nanette Bilitz-Koenig, which is a survivor from the Holocaust that now lives here in Brazil. And she wrote a beautiful book about her story, to tell people about her story, which is very sad. But she quotes George Santayana, I think that's the correct pronunciation, which says, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So it is very, very important that we always teach people about the history of countries that were victims of genocide and people that were victimated by genocidal campaigns. And therefore, we can see the importance of education to remember what happened and prevent it from happening again in the future. In this sense, we made research about the victim countries, such as Namibia, Rwanda, and Armenia, for example. They do include in basic educational programs the topic of genocide. So they really educate their population because, well, obviously they are victims and they do remember their descendants, their parents and grandparents from suffering these the genocidal campaigns. So it is an important policy for these victim countries to continue educating its populations. But on the other hand, we see that the perpetrators countries do no such thing. For example, Germany does largely teach about the Holocaust, but it doesn't really teach about its colonial past in Namibia, for example. So as you can see, the recent negotiations about paying reparations to Namibia, German government is not negotiating with the descendants of the victims, the Nama and the Herero people, they are negotiating with the government, the Namibia's government. So the real victims are torn aside from this negotiation, and they are really complaining about it, mainly because Germany does not deal with this colonial past, as does Belgium, for instance. Here is this picture of the King Leopold II, and this picture was taken last year when Belgians have just discovered, I think so, that this king carried a major genocidal campaign in the colony. So this is the importance of the education in perpetrators' countries, because people need to know where they come from, not only the victims, but also the perpetrators, so people can stop a genocidal campaign when they realize it's taking place. And we strongly believe that we cannot rely only on the victims to educate the next generations about their history, because they do have emotional and psychological issues that can be a real impediment for proper development of research, for example. And it does not suffice that only the victim countries teach about their past, but it is also necessary, as I just stated, that the perpetrators' countries do the same, because they are indeed the most likely to commit other human rights violations against less privileged countries, as we can see in Germany, for instance, that carried a genocidal campaign in Namibia and later against the Jews. So we cannot expect that an uneducated population recognizes a genocidal campaign when it is taking place, if they are not properly educated in this topic. We can see, for example, in Brazil, we just had the media accusing and people openly accusing our president Bolsonaro from conducting a genocidal campaign because he simply delayed the importation of vaccines against COVID-19, for example, and we can see that there's a gap here, because we strongly believe that it's not comparable. This presidential lack of conduct is not comparable to what happened in Namibia and in Germany, in Nazi Germany, for instance. So taking this into account, we have made some considerations on the best tools for preventing genocide, which will be presented now by my dear friend Ligia, who invited us to this research, and to who I give the floor now. Thank you.
So in our last topic, we are talking about the basic education. It's the best tool for preventing genocide. We think other resolutions of the United States, such as United States Security Council Resolution 2015 on We're Committed to Fight Against Genocide, or Human Rights Council Resolution 2015 on the Prevention of Genocide, highlight the importance of education as a means to raise awareness about the case dynamics and consequences of atrocity crimes. Education about the Holocaust and genocide is part of the organization's efforts to promote global citizenship education, a priority of the Education 2030 agenda. In this context, UNESCO supports education stakeholders in their efforts to help learners become critical thinkers, responsible and active global citizens who value human dignity and respect for all, rejecting anti-Semitism, racism, and other forms of prejudice that can lead to violence and genocide. Therefore, the alteration of the elementary school grid, including, in a mandatory way, the reading of books written by survivors, discussion of documentaries, including interviews with survivors, the visit to historic sites guided by survivors, and holding conversation cycles between victims and aggressors as happened is already happening in Germany. And holding, creating memory sites for victims in the capitals of the perpetrator states, like Berlin, Paris, and Brussels, would appear as very relevant tools to be implemented, adapted at the time, in order to prevent these factors from happening again, and to point out that the state strongly condemns this type of action. On the other hand, it would be important for the countries where the genocides were committed to include in the elementary school curriculum conversation cycles between Tutsis and Hutus, Nama and Herero's descendants, and the descendants of the perpetrators, in order to discuss physiological issues caused by historic events as a form of collective therapy, carrying out mandatory schools visiting to place of memory, and a subject aimed to awareness and prevention of genocide, in which class would be discussed to 10 steps to genocide, how to prevent and identify it. So thank you for your attention. It's an honor to us being here with you, and we are open for questions.
All right, thank you very much. Our presenters, Stephanie Havir, Layla Sumer, and Ligia de Souza Cerqueira. So could you please unshare your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's you guys have Dimon have shown that you are you have honored your countryman Paulo Freire. Freire. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right.
Yeah.
So who gave the world this is one of my favorite books, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. So and that's basically allowed me to understand your project, that the importance of education and conscientization in order to prevent, not just to critique genocide that's already in the past, but also to prevent further ones in the future. So I don't know whether any of our there are questions for your presentations. So if in the absence of, while others are still putting together their questions, could you talk a little bit more about your common projects, both at school or whether you three of you are parts of a larger organization dedicated to this conscientizing people and spreading words about how to prevent genocide? Any of you could jump in?
Sorry,
yeah.
Can I take this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, we are a group of friends. We just undergraduated from the law school, and in our law school we had this group which was dedicated exclusively to study the genocides and how to prevent it and creating tools and etc. But unfortunately, this group was vanished from the university, and we took our bachelor degree, and we are not anymore related to the university, but we are still together to study because we feel that this topic reaches us deeply, and we think it's very important to continue studying it and spreading the word here in Brazil, because we have a real deficiency in education on this topic here. For example, Brazil doesn't even recognize, or Brazilian people is not aware that indigenous genocide took place and is still taking place in some regions of Amazon and etc. So we are three huge friends which like to discuss this topic, and we aim to spread the word here in Brazil through education, because we strongly believe that this is the main tool for preventing future genocides, to raise the awareness of the people.
Well, thank you very much. So does anyone have any question?
I think Valdin at the Nash, I'm not sure. The first concentration camps were organized in SA during Second World War. Was the violence against them also a reason of the apartheid much later? Traumatized America, similar to the apartheid era after the Holocaust. So Layla, if you...
I think that's the question for the latest, not for us. I think it was for the other professor.
Yeah.
Because it's about, about apartheid and the Holocaust, and we didn't talk about that.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so I so much appreciate the work you are doing, and we are happy that that our works complement one another, and we are hoping that the conversation which you have started, and I so much love the fact that what you are doing is about the ethics of how people should live together, and how people should live together also takes into account what was done in the past. And as one of you, rightly cited, Judge Santayana. So those who are ignorant of the past are bound to repeat its mistakes. And what we are doing and what this GHRAD is doing is not just we're not just looking backwards. We are not fixated on the rear view mirror. Of course, if you are driving a car, you have to look in the rear view mirror. But if you take your eyes off the major screen, you crash, and that's the beauty and the importance of what you are doing and what we are doing, and I'm hoping we'll remain in touch. So thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful lecture.
Thank you. We are honored to be here. It is a unique experience and opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.